In the 1990s, Mr. Ni Guangnan developed the Lenovo Handcard 7 DLX 9000. What was the manufacturing process of this chip? 1 micron. In 2007, China's first domestic Lungsens laptop used a CPU that we independently developed. What was its manufacturing process? 90 nanometers. In 1983, oh my goodness, the world's first laptop used Intel's 8086 CPU, the Toshiba T1100. What was the manufacturing process of this CPU? 3 microns. Many people might not know the relationship between microns and nanometers. 1 micron equals 1000 nanometers. In other words, Mr. Ni's chip was 1000 nanometers, and the previous one was 3000 nanometers. By the time we developed our first Lungsens laptop with a self-developed 90 nanometer CPU, it was already 2007. And at that time, these represented the most advanced chip manufacturing processes. But now, looking at the iPhone, it's already used 5 nanometer, or even the latest 3 nanometer technology. I wouldn't say I know more about chips than many others, but behind me are my collections. This entire room is filled with collectibles I personally purchased from the market. Every time I collect something, I will learn about it. Do you know how many times and how much effort I've spent on this? I've always closely followed the development of Chinese chips. And I realized something, this laptop back then, do you know? It was incredibly difficult to use, even less efficient than an ordinary mobile phone at the time. But it was a breakthrough from zero. For the Chinese people, it was a starting point, which makes it particularly valuable. In fact, after so many years of development, it's not that we haven't been catching up. We've been making chips since the 1990s. Whether in design or manufacturing, we were at the cutting edge back then. If you want to design something more advanced, it's not that the market doesn't exist, it's that we couldn't design it due to a lack of talent. From the 1990s until now, China has never stopped developing chips. You'll notice that in recent years, we've been catching up much faster. Now, we use smartphones with our own self-developed chips. Even though the nanometer process is a bit larger, they still function smoothly, right? Our self-developed laptops can now stream videos and browse the internet smoothly. Their functionality and ecosystem might not be as refined as foreign systems, but you will find that compared to a few years ago, it has improved a lot and is now much more usable. Why is that? We should all think critically and ask why when questioning these issues. Do you know what China's GDP was in the 1995? That year, with the entire nation working hard, it was just over $700 billion US. Over $700 billion US. I remember in the 1990s, the exchange rate was around 3 point something. I'm not entirely sure, everyone can look it up, but that would be just a few trillion RMB, a few trillion. Even if all of Chinese worked non-stop without eating, drinking, or getting sick, the total output back then was only a few trillion RMB. But do you know that in 2023 alone, our government invested 2.3 trillion renminbi just in the chip industry? And companies like Intel, AMD, even Nvidia in the US invest tens of billions of US dollars every year in chip R&D. And they've been making such investments for so many years. How many times more is that compared to what we're investing now? Plus, their investments have paid off. Every laptop we use, right? The computers you've bought over the past years have all used Intel and AMD chips. Their investments have truly brought returns. But now, as China tries to catch up, we're making massive investments from the start, regardless of immediate results. And we're mainly focused on the domestic market, right? Think about how massive this investment is. US chip companies are making huge profits globally, while we only earn what's left over. So, let's give credit to these pioneers. This is a major move, and it's only because China now has the economic strength that we dare to pursue this path. In the 1990s, where would you find that much money to invest? Where would you find enough talent? You know? An Edison once commented, "We built atomic bombs, how hard can it be to make chips?" I said, it's really hard. This stuff is all about money. The industrial chain is incredibly complex. It's not just about CPUs for the Handcard 7 DLX 9000 chip. Do you know that China actually ranks first globally in shipments of low-end 180 to 220 nanometer chips? China has the potential to become the world's largest producer. Did you know that? Because we've completely mastered these technologies, whether it's innovation, cost-effectiveness, or numerous patents, like temperature control chips, humidity control chips, and so on. You'll find that a large portion of the world is already using Chinese-made chips. Take other chips, for example. This morning, a friend of mine came over. He works on 40-nanometer chips used for power control in laptops and desktop. Originally, the core technology for this kind of chip was all overseas. But now, our domestic industry has caught up in this area. Cutting-edge chips are a competition we must take on. Why? Because of energy costs. If you look at it from a higher perspective, you're wasting energy just to match someone else's computing power, and even after wasting it, you still might not catch up. So, I think the people working on domestic chips are like warriors on the battlefield. Yet, they face a lot of criticism. Is that really necessary? Take Huawei, for example. Their self-developed smartphone chips might not be as powerful as those backed by decades of research, but they're often good enough. Just a few days ago, I bought my mom a senior-friendly phone using a chip produced by Unisoc. Wow, it works great. My mom only uses it for WeChat, phone calls, and watching videos, just those 3 functions. She doesn't play games, so it's more than enough. The font is large by default, and with a simple zoom-in, it gets even bigger. That's super user-friendly for seniors. Chips are embedded in every part of our lives. Why are our high-speed trains so advanced? They're packed with domestically made chips. Why has our space program made such huge leaps in recent years? It's also powered entirely by our own chips. In high-performance computing, we're still a bit behind, but we can catch up. Trust time, and trust that so many scientists returned to China just to work on this. Go China chips. Yes. I am someone who has met tens of thousands of entrepreneurs.